Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party. I'm a buddy Rat. Here's a nut for her. There you go, girl. So this is a weird day because two things, and they're both related. One is it's Thursday, April 2nd, and normally Rhett doesn't get to come out here with me on Thursdays, and that's because normally my daughter-in-law and my granddaughter and their two dogs come over on Thursdays around eight, about this time. It's about 8:36 in the morning. They usually show up between 8:35 and 8:45, somewhere in that range. And the dogs come in and they're like, they just gets a little bit crazy. So that was one thing. Oh, let me start this thing. The other thing is today is the Super Bowl of Georgia legislation and legislature. And this is a Super Bowl. This is kind of like a Super Bowl where if uh if it was the Super Bowl and like a super famous person was getting ready to retire as well. So Tom Brady or something, like he's in the Super Bowl and he's like, this is it, I'm retiring after this year and I'm in the Super Bowl. That's like today. We have a governor that is done due to term limits. I believe we have term limits, and I believe that's why he's done. We have a ton of people that are looking to try to move up out of the legislature and into the executive. We have and stuff like that. So we got a lot going on today. So today's going to be a really special day. I was really hoping to get to go to work because I think it's going to be very festive and fun. But unfortunately, and for the reason that Rhett gets to come out today and all that is that we have the flu. The flu seems to be going around, and I guess one of my wife's employees, they work out of our house in our basement. So, downstairs, like literally right now, work is going on with her. She employs a few artists, and they do art and stuff like that on TikTok. And one of them had a doctor appointment yesterday, and they have the flu. And she has the flu, and my boss is like, please don't come in if you've been exposed to the flu and all that. Especially because we're about ready to have a 3-day weekend, so um, nobody wants to get sick with the flu on the 3-day weekend. So that's where we're at. So I'm working on unit tests. Let's see. I believe we have one test that's firing right now. And I believe it has something to do with animations. Like, I remember oh yeah, see, we have multiple things and 3 animation class, and that's this, and this is our spec. And what I like to do is I like to run it with code coverage, so then I could drag this over. Now I have very mixed feelings about um, um, unit testing. Okay, so I don't find it to be particularly unit testing in and of itself to be particularly useful, but I do find it to be a great time to set aside to do sort of the low level deep analysis on the line by line level. So like sometimes you have to be coding, you have to be thinking like at the 30,000 foot architecturally, you're trying to figure out, okay, how do all these pieces fit together? What are my constraints? What are things that I need to watch out for? Blah, 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 blah. So you're thinking at that level. And then sometimes you're thinking at the bottom, like line by line, okay, this line on line 28 does this, blah, 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 blah. And then sometimes you're thinking in the, oh my gosh, everything is broken. I got to figure this out. I've got this bug. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Let me just start trying things and all that. And those are just 3 of probably the million different modes you might find yourself in coding. And the reality is that you really do you need to carve out some time where you're just going to look at things on a line by line basis. And a lot of times people do have the pull request, like when the pull request um, is out. But the problem is that with the pull request, then you have that stuff is already committed and everything, and maybe you don't ever even want it to be in like the commitment history that, it'll likely cause confusion, So anyway, so this is sitting at app services entities 3 animation. So app services entity 3 animation. So some like if we're sitting at 30,000 feet, see 3 animation is where code that is supposed to be, the point of this is where code that is supposed to be like um a shim. So there's a word called shim, shim, and the first time I was ever around it was on doors. So like when your door hangs, when they hang your door, and let's say you're trying to get it to be square so that the door opens and closes. Sometimes either at the top or at the bottom, there's like it's not exactly 100% vertical, so you put like a little shim in there to force it to be letter. It's like a little piece of wood, and you take a little, like a mallet, and you kind of squeeze in there, and you just pound it in there, and all that. So I have my view of the world, and I call it the ST for space and time, and that's how I want to describe things in 3 dimensions. And the shim is the piece that, or this class here, everything in this 3 area is what is supposed to handle any differences on the way I want to view the world and the way ThreeJS wants to view the world. That's what that's set up, and I have a ton of really good examples, and I talk about them all the time. So, and I could go on forever. But it looks like I think this was all 0 to start, and I see that we have 50%. We got one of the branches is now covered. We have 9 of 26 statements, and we have probably 9 of 26 lines. Yeah, 9 of 26 lines. So statements and lines are the same in this application. We have 26 lines and 26 statements. All right, so we need to create an animation for meshes. Oh yeah, and that's right. Yesterday it was very exciting because we pass in a mesh service and an animation service. So we actually need those to exist now. I'm starting to remember. And that's when we learned that like inject, so I can get mesh services, I can get these services in here, and there's 2 ways I could do it. I could say providers and include them here, and then that's part of the configuration, and Angular will know to bring in. So I could say providers, and then I can give it an array, and then I could say mesh service, and I could say ST animation service. And in this case, then what I believe, my understanding is that testbed inject will just get me the reference to these singleton services. But without that, if I don't have this providers, then they don't exist. And then what it'll do is it'll actually inject, it'll actually have it create the singleton services. So in many ways, this inject is really not an inject, it's more of an upsert. And upsert's a thing that's in, I don't really understand databases that well. Um, I used to kind of be into it a little bit, but I kind of like, I prefer JSON if at all possible. Like, unless it's going to be something where it really makes sense to have either a, a structured database, like a relational database, or a no structure database like a no SQL DB, an object-oriented database. Unless it makes a lot of sense, I think it just makes my favorite thing to do is just have a JSON file that it creates. Now, I think that would be a lot more popular, but it is not particularly cloud friendly. It's a lot easier in a cloud situation to just have like a couch DB or some kind of DB, especially if it's like a third party thing that you can just like send that stuff out to, and you just figure out the interface and then you just do it this way. But I like having a local database because then it's easy to sort of lift and shift the whole thing. and then but I like it to be in JSON because then that's more like it takes less overhead to get and interact with that data. So that's that. But anyway, so now we are injecting our new. I think they should call it object instead of inject, and that would and the reason it would be called object would be object is because it's like either give me the mesh service or create a mesh service and give it to me. And that's what that does. So now we have our mesh service, our animation service. They don't have anything in them. And I don't even have access to the application. But I do have access to the services. So I guess in 3 service, I can do that. And it'll actually be very curious because I'm very curious to see what happens when I actually pass it in a mesh and 2 empty services, 2 services that haven't been populated. I don't, it should not break. So if it does break, this will be a good time to fix any breakages. And then guess what we want to do is come over here and just make sure that we haven't broken anything. The nice thing about if something breaks in here, it'll probably just be very obvious that it's broken. So that's always nice. But anyway, so I want to create a mesh. And it's a 3 mesh. So that's another weird thing is, oh wait, yeah, so I'm gonna have a mesh, but it's just an empty mesh, doesn't really have anything in it. Um, and it's actually a full 3. Is that? Oh, we don't even pass in a mesh, so let's not do that. Let's see what happens if, and it like as I think it's like kind of murky, right? Because it's like, wait a second, we don't even pass in a 3 mesh. Well, yeah, so I don't know what even happens. So this is supposed to take this code and then it's going to come up and it's actually going to get the mesh ID from this 3 mesh service, which got passed in. But it doesn't have any messages in it. We didn't do anything. So we'll see what happens because it should like this get mesh by ID. Yeah. So we're not even handling the concept that we go to get a mesh by ID and we get an unknown. And then we're going to try to get our ST animation and we don't have any ST animations. So um, that'll be here. But we actually do check. We say, hey, if this is it, and then we actually do. So if we return an empty animation, I don't know what we return from here, but if we return an empty array when we don't have anything, and then we should be good because we want to get in this for loop, but we'll test everything up by that. So we want it should update. So we definitely should, it should um, execute without error. Error when st when the providers have not been, and I don't know if populated is the right word. Populated. So that's what we want. We want to make sure that like if we run this function, we haven't done anything in the mesh service, we haven't done anything in the animation service, and I guess even uh, and I guess like we just have some random number in the mesh IDs. It really should run without error. I don't want it to crash at this point during runtime if this were to happen. It should never happen, but um, if it were to happen. So I'm going to say 3 animation class. And keep in mind, this is the exact same animation class. So whatever we did in here, actually could affect that. Now this is stateless. It doesn't have any, it doesn't make any stateful changes, so we shouldn't have a problem. Update animations for IDs, and I guess we do want to try one with just an empty array, comma, and then three mesh service, comma, and then st animation service. And let's just see what happens. I don't know. Maybe it'll crash. Maybe it won't. I don't know. It could crash depending on what happens here. But it shouldn't even get into here. So we should be okay. Okay, so that's good. And so now let's try it with just a 1. And I will say that like it is working the way I'd hoped. Like I am understanding literally on a line by line basis. And you have to take that time. And so let's see what happened. All right, so the problem is, and this is good, it didn't crash. It failed. Well, it says it failed. Okay, so maybe it did crash. It looks like it did crash actually. Reading. Okay, so yeah, so we do have a problem. And that is that it tried to. So this thing, get animation for SIDs, to me it looks like it returned like an undefined or something, not a empty array, because it seems like it's complaining. Yeah, the animation. Wait, animation IDs. All right, now I'm lost. Okay, reading ST animation IDs. So it's saying that on line 69, oh, it tried to call down here. Update animation. I wonder why. So okay, so this problem I think goes away when I do this, right? Or maybe it was there. Maybe it was there before. And just to be clear, like you would not be able to. This would be very, very difficult. These scenarios would be very, very difficult to set up. All right, so now we're coming into one, and I don't. I think we come in here and we see that there was no three mesh and there was no animation. So it's saying on line 69 something's going bad, and it's just like, why is it even getting in here? And if it is even getting in here, why is it? Get animations for mesh IDs. Update animation for mesh IDs. Yeah, I'm very confused as to what's going on here. So let's go into, so what I like to do is, like, I don't know exactly where I'm at over here. So I'm just going to go here and then back to here. And now it's selected. All right. So it feels like, let's just try this. What I'm going to try next is I'm just going to try to gut this thing so that we'll see if ST mesh IDs for each. Oh, I see. So it found the one and then it gets to, okay. So anyways, let's just trust the process here. I'm not like a big trust the process kind of person, but the process is a pretty good process in this situation. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, so then, and this is kind of the situation where like I saw this video the other day talking about like how you can learn to fail. Like If you're given like three things and then you fail, 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 then you get the fourth thing that you normally would have passed, there's a chance that you're going to fail because the first three times you failed. But if you succeeded the first three times, then you'll easily do it if it's something that you'd have done anyways. Um, so like this, I knew I was going to succeed because literally all I did was uncomment my comment. So let's say we go in here. So I'm just trying to break this down into its lowest minimum. And I'm just going to put a console log here. Hello. Now, honestly, I don't see what is causing it to fail, which like is a good indication that I don't know exactly what's going on here. Um, Sometimes you think you know what's going on and you don't, and then you need some sort of thing to kind of um, to kind of let you know, hey, you don't know what you're doing. So updated equals true should not break anything. We'll see. And then reloading here is a really good way to validate that. Yep. And then undoing this comment should not break anything. Oh, it might even been line 69 in a whole different file. It probably is. Maybe it's something in here. Okay, so that one was fine. So maybe it's in here. And I wasn't even thinking about that. Like, oh, I'm probably looking in the altogether wrong file. Okay, yep. So it is inside of get st animations for mesh ID. And when I was reading it, I misread it misread it because I said, oh, get st. It's in the st animation service that it's dying. So now we want to go to the st animation service. I think we can right click on this. I can do this here at home, but I cannot do it at work. If I click on this and then hit control and then, no, is it? No. Whoa, maybe I can. Okay. I think, yeah, I don't know if I can do that at work. I think at work it tries to take me, I don't know, it gets very confused by the path. Um, all right, so it's saying that on line 69, ST animation IDs. Okay, so so this I think should be refactored to go up to the top. All right, right. And then this goes to get the ST mesh. Now, what if the ST mesh doesn't exist, right? Like that thought just never crossed my mind. And why would it? That would, like there's a time and place for that, and this is that time and place. Now, if you're not doing it in unit tests, I don't know when you do it. I don't know. I would not suggest learning unit tests at this point because it's a lot of work. Like I can't even tell you like how many thousands of hours that were mostly charged to or at least hundreds, but probably thousands. They're charged to the American taxpayer that I've spent banging my head, freaking understanding it, trying to learn how to do unit testing. And so, like, does it bring enough value to justify the thousands of hours I spent on it? Probably not. So we're going to return an empty array if it doesn't exist. If for some reason the ST mesh just doesn't exist. I mean, some people like, I don't know, inside of me, there's sort of a mixed bag of things to think about. There we go. Um, because um, in some ways you just want it to fail. Crap, I got to get to work. Let me undo this and see if we're. It is exactly 9 o'clock. So I need to get in there. Need to log in. Okay, so now I don't think we have any errors. Yeah, we don't have any breakages. So that was actually a huge improvement. All right, so now we want to get it to where we get animations next time, and then 3. So the next one will be to test that. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye.